Before we get started, one more thing. If you want to get any PE gear, be sure to check out TotalManShop.com. That is TotalManShop.com. And use the promo code MHS2020. Promo code is MHS2020 and get 12% off. Be sure to check out their wide variety of all kinds of good quality PE equipment. All right? And that's promo code MHS2020 for 12% off. And the website, once again, is TotalManShop.com. Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast once again. And today I'm going to discuss a subject that came up that, it kind of slipped my mind because I hadn't thought about it a lot, but it is something that, affects us men, and it is relevant, which is why I will be talking about said subject. And that's none other than, is it better to be circumcised or uncircumcised? And depending on which culture you belong to, I know there's a lot of different cultural affiliations in regards to what's best, right? Or what is viewed as being the best, right? And the question itself was like, is anything going to be affected in my PE journey due to the fact that I am uncircumcised? To which I said to the man, relax, buddy. I'm uncircumcised too. So that makes two of us. And I know there's thousands and thousands of guys currently doing PE that are uncircumcised. So I do not believe that it is a factor. For myself, and that's kind of what I wanted to open up with, and that's that. The only benefit for myself in my PE journey so far that I wish I had been circumcised for would be for pumping. I think that, and again, this is from what I've observed and what I've seen. And if you are an circumcised pumper, please let me know. But it just appears as though the donut for guys that are circumcised is not that bad, versus mine, where I can, when I start pumping and I go over the top and, pack the cylinders, I'd get a massive donut, but it was mainly just that like lymph fluid all up in my foreskin, right? So it wasn't really like it was beneficial. It wasn't doing anything. It's just a whole bunch of fluid retention in my foreskin, which I'm not a fan of, which is why I told you guys I got into getting rid of that donut by basically just putting foam tape around it, right? Or what I did now is I went to Total Man's Shop and I did get myself their anti-sleeve device, or their anti-turtling device. It's the blue sleeve, right? It's a little bit thicker, and I would not recommend that one if you want to use it all day long. It's a little bit too constricting, right? And it's a little bit almost too taut. So I just don't find that one's really comfortable for like an all-day turtling device, right? Some guys may disagree with me and think that it's awesome. And you know what? Hey, to each their own. I myself, I'm not a big fan of it. And I found that it was too difficult to really use. I prefer the ones from mattersofsize.com. They're softer, they're a little bit thinner, and they have variations of the same product, which means that you can kind of, if one doesn't work out, you can gauge it and you can decide which one you want to use for an all-day anti-turtling device. And it's just a comfortable sleeve that you can wear all day, every day, which is the best way to do PE. Like I've told you guys before, the best way to do it is with a passive approach, right? If you got to do it all hands-on, it's pretty difficult in that sense, right? So for myself and in my journey, that's the only thing that I can really say has affected me. Now, for all the uncircumcised guys, unfortunately, there are a couple of products that you may not be able to use, right? And two of those products that I know of so far, one is the TLC Tugger, or VLC Tugger at vlctugger.com. And that's the one that basically uses a cone. And that's the one that I have. And it's an old extender and it's extremely comfortable. And it takes about 10 seconds to put on, 10 seconds to take off, which is why I got it, because that's the one that I can rock with all day, every day. When I'm just walking around doing my thing, it's excellent. It's very well built, and all the designs are custom made, right? So it's really a great design. It's ingenious, and it basically just creates a vacuum seal, which is how it kind of holds it in place. But let me describe it a little bit better than that. What it is it's basically a silicone cone, right? And this cone will go on top of your glands. So right on your pee hole, right on top of there. Excellent. At this point, you will now roll your foreskin up, right? You roll your foreskin up, then you will put on, it's almost like another sleeve or layer. And then under, and the cone will actually have a ring at the top of the triangle, at the top of the cone. And after you put that one layer on top of it, right, it kind of creates a seal. And the way it creates a seal is basically by, having your foreskin kind of tucked in there to create said seal, right? So your foreskin is what's creating the adhesion, I guess. And you need to be uncircumcised for that, guys. So if you are not, do not purchase said product. Right? Do not purchase that product because it will not work for you. Also, gel to gain. My friend Daniel, he's also got a design that is designed in that manner. Actually, take that back. Take that back. He has one that, if I am not mistaken, is actually for foreskin restoration. Same with VLC Tugger. But that's what I was meaning to discuss, is that he's got basically one that's set up to restore foreskin, right? And I'll basically get into, well, I might as well just talk about it right now. I had some other talking points, but now that we're on the subject, what it does is that it basically pulls on whatever foreskin you have. And over time, it'll pull more and more, right? So it is called the Gel to Gain ADS Foreskin Restoration Model, right? So it's the same deal. It's got the cone and the other cone that goes on top, right? But he also has a foreskin restoration hanger. It's basically the same design, right, guys? So, and it's the same one as the VLC Tugger that you'll also find on their website. And both of these products are spectacular. And they are meant to just basically grow your foreskin, right? So you'll put the cone in and you'll find different ways to basically start tugging on your foreskin, which will create more foreskin in the future, right? That's kind of the way it works, that it slowly starts pulling more and more of your foreskin out, which will basically force your foreskin to grow, right? So if you are circumcised and you would like to get your foreskin back, that's a great way to go about it. It's, I mean, the one that I'm looking at on Daniel's site, on the Gel to Gain side, is about 75 pounds. Translated to USD, I think it's somewhere around the $120 mark, which is very, very affordable, right? And if you are looking to really, restore your foreskin, it's a great way to go about it. And if you're just looking for an ADS device, right, your all-day stretcher that's mad comfortable, I'd highly recommend rolling with it too, right? Because then you can just use that. And for all you uncircumcised fellas, like yours truly, it's a great way to just stretch passively and reap the benefits from, using an ADS that's not really tugging on your glands, not really tugging on your head. You don't really have to worry about it being quote unquote unprotected. I do sometimes, I will put maybe a piece of bandage or just bandage tape on top of it, just to make sure that it's good to go, and just to avoid anything, because it is important to always, always, always protect your glands, because sometimes you may wear it for a very long, extended period of time, as I have in the past, and in doing so, it kind of got a little bit swole, right? And it was a little bit sensitive to the touch. So it's always important to always have a little bit of said bandage tape on it, right? But that being said, that's pretty much it when it comes to, like, will it affect you? Will it hinder your gains? Is it bad for you? No, not really. And honestly, other than those couple devices that exist out there that really utilize your foreskin, it's not really necessary. Again, for the VLC Tugger and for the Gel to Gain models, they also have hanging models that actually use your foreskin, right? And if you are looking to go down that route and you really want to try that out, it's a great way to go about it. However, it is not necessary. And that's the one thing that I just want to keep harping on here, is that it is not necessary. It is completely up to you. It's completely up to whether you want to have foreskin or not. So don't go out and get circumcised because it's supposed to be better. It's going to hinder your gains, or it's going to give you less of a donut when you pump. It's really not necessary, guys. But is it relevant? Kind of, for like 2 devices on the market. But other than that, most of them are going with the vacuum seal, the vacuum type of device these days anyway. So If I were you, I wouldn't sweat it. I wouldn't really worry about it. However, in having this discussion, he also wanted to know if there were any benefits to being circumcised, or if it really changed anything, or if it made it better, this, that, and the other. To which I told him, honestly, I had to do a little bit of research of it, but according to the science, what it does say is that there is less of a risk of urinary tract infections, right? The argument behind this is that because there's no foreskin, there's basically no place for the bacteria or anything to really hang out, right? So it's easier to keep your penis cleaner. That's the argument that's made. Um, um, that's the argument basically made to why it's better and superior to have a circumcised penis. They say it also acts as protection against penile cancer and that it lowers the risk of cervical cancer in female sex partners, right? Do I think that's 100% true? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, if that were really the case, then I'm pretty sure we would have seen an uptick in all kinds of dirty people suffering from penile cancer. So, I when it comes to the science and people's talking about different studies, the one thing that I will always say is that do your own research. And one of the biggest things that's important is always have a little bit of discernment. If it was really that big of a factor, then it'd probably play out a lot worse, right? But it really hasn't. So, in my opinion, and again, this is not medical advice, this is just my opinion. And again, the other things that were brought up was that it's just easier to maintain it healthy, and that because of it, because of the fact that it's cleaner, it's supposed to be, it's just easier to maintain. That was the basic function behind it, right? But other than that, I kind of we discussed this back and forth, and we started talking about sex, and like obviously, how does it play into sex? Because ding, 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 this is where it's a little bit more important, and this is where it's a little bit more relevant, right? And get this. In a Michigan State University study, it found that the most sensitive part of a circumcised penis, the circumcised the circumcision scar, a possible explanation after circumcision. The penis has to protect itself like growing a callus on your foot, but to a lesser extent, right? Says Darius Paduch, MD, PhD, who is a New York-based urologist and male sexual medicine specialist. What this basically means is that nerve endings on a circumcised versus an uncircumcised penis are further from the surface and therefore might be less responsive. The translation to that is basically that the head of your penis, if you are uncircumcised like myself, is more sensitive than the guys that are circumcised, right? And the reason for that is basically your penis is exposed all day. So it's not very difficult to figure out why, it's like your penis is constantly rubbing up on stuff, your dickhead. Whereas mine is kind of cocooned up in like in like a foreskin blanket, right? So that's the reason why the penis of an uncircumcised man is going to be a little bit more sensitive, right? It's not really exposed to the elements. It's just kind of chilling in this warm blanket all day. And because of that, it's just kind of cocooned up there, and the nerve endings are all good to go, and it's nice and sensitive. And because of this, it was actually found that men that were circumcised last longer in bed. So congratulations, guys. If you are circumcised, technically you're supposed to last longer in bed because your penis has basically been dragged through the mud since you were a baby. No, but in all seriousness, it's basically what it's saying is that it's less sensitive, right? So because of this, you're able to last longer in bed. When you're having sexual intercourse and your balls deep in that vagina, you're gonna feel a little bit less than the guys that are uncircumcised, because our penis is just like, oh, it's like a whole new world. And it feels fantastic. Granted, do I think, me personally, I don't think it's going to vary that much, because I've talked to a lot of guys that are, circumcised, and they're like, well, it still feels fantastic. So I think all parties involved are going to enjoy the sensitivity of sexual intercourse. All right, but next up, interesting tidbit. What does a female, or how is a female's pleasure affected by circumcised versus an uncircumcised penis? Right. So one study from Denmark found that people with circumcised spouses were twice as likely to report dissatisfaction in the sack than those with uncircumcised partners. But then again, this is why I say the science is all bull. Well, kind of a load of it, because then again, other studies have actually shown the opposite. It's true that when an uncircumcised penis's foreskin retracts, it may bunch up around the base of the penis, providing a little extra friction against your clitoris, says Dr. Paduch. This is going to play a role in pleasure for women who have the clitoral pattern of arousal, which is something he states. But to be fair, a partner could more than make up for the lack of foreskin by using their fingers, toys, or sexual positions that will obviously involve more of the clitoral stimulation. And honestly, guys, I think it's pretty minimal. And if you are, let's say you are circumcised, but let's say you got a 7-inch base of erect girth, man, she's going to be all about that business, man. And as we all know, the most sensitive part of the vagina is about 3 inches in. So, I mean, if you're hitting that with a big old base, I think she's gonna be quite satisfied, right? So, regardless of who you are, that's kind of why I think it's important just to know, guys, that all this stuff, I mean, these quote unquote studies, it's always important to keep in mind that your situation is exclusive to you, and that there's what 7 billion human beings on this planet now, and every single act of sexual intercourse is going to be different for every single one of us. And, so again, I'm reading these studies, but at the same time, I think it's always important to note that it's going to vary from person to person, sensitivity, like I'm pretty sure there's guys out there that are circumcised, that have probably a penis that's more sensitive than mine. That's uncircumcised, right? So just important to keep that in mind, guys. All right. So female pain during sex. So also in a study from Denmark. So while the amount of pleasure may be up for discussion in the circumcised versus uncircumcised debate, a lot of females with partners who have, well, partners with men who have circumcised penises are also 3 times more likely to experience sexual pain than those who have uncircumcised spouses. The study from Denmark found that the uncircumcised penis is much glossier, has a more velvety feel, says Dr. Paduch. So for women who aren't lubricating well, they have much less discomfort having intercourse with someone who is uncircumcised. He also added that people who have their foreskin intact require lubricant far less frequently during sex and masturbation, since the skin of their penis is naturally slicker. Yep, apparently I got velvety skin on my dick. Oh man, so that, I mean, I don't know if my penis is glossier than a man who is circumcised, because I honestly haven't seen, or I really don't want to touch another man's penis, to be honest with you, nor do I want to, really pay attention to anybody else's situation. But I guess his Dr. Paduch character, he's probably going all over the place, just touching penises and learning more about their texture and trying to compare them. What kind of penis does this guy have versus what kind does the other dude have? And I guess it's just part of his job, right? Which I respect, because he's the one bringing all this data to us, which is obviously important. And in order to learn more about this quote unquote situation, about what's best for us men, honestly, like I said before, it just kind of comes down to, more than anything, religious beliefs, cultural beliefs. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, right? Like the only way for me to truly know is for me to get cut and then decide from there. But one's kind of irreversible. So, well, not irreversible, but I'd have to work pretty hard to get it back. So I'm kind of more, I'm just happy with what I am. And the message here, guys, is that you should be happy with whatever you got too. And just know there's going to be pros, there's going to be cons, right? So cleanliness, apparently, and you're safer from penile cancer, apparently. Right. But like I said before, guys, this stuff, whether it is 100% true or 100% not, I think it all comes down to us and what we can do to influence these different factors, right? Like it's this, I mean, a very interesting tidbit here, kind of a side note, but it was found that cancer was actually very much influenced by people's lifestyle choices, right? So if you're smoking, eating bad, not walking, just being overall lazy and out of shape, and not doing so hot, you don't really move around too much, that can be a very big contributing factor into whether you get cancer or not, right? So again, guys, I just want to stay here. It all comes down to the individual situation, right? So it always comes down to what we're doing and what we can do with what we got. And again, when it comes to penis enhancement, guys, you got to remember you're working with what you got. So with that being said, I just want you guys to know that whatever you have is a blessing, right? Keep in mind there's guys that may not have anything. So just know that none, in my opinion, is really better than the other. Just work with what you got, maximize it to the fullest, and live your life to the fullest, man. All right. So, with that being said, stay safe. And until the next episode, well, make sure you stay velvety smooth. All right, guys. Have a pleasant evening. Until the next one.